Don't you go too far into the wood, missus, the old lady scolded you. She may be short, but she also knew how intimidating. She was glaring at you with intense amber eyes, her lips pulled into a deep frown. You'd be a fool not to listen to her warning, not to mention you had seen her work firsthand. That poor thief. He did not see the old lady coming. You still recall the day the thief entered her shop with a shiver. He could never have known that this little old lady held immense power. You didn't even understand why you town bothered knight and hunters. She seemed to be stronger than all of them combined. Yes, ma'am, you saluted in a silly manner. And the old lady hit your ankle with her cane. You lay on the ground and brought up your leg to rub your foot with a frown. At least you know how to show your elders some respect. Remember to be back before dark, or else the whole town will panic and send out a search party. I don't want to deal with that kind of headache. The old lady continued to lecture you as you adjusted the bag by your side. You had to hold back the need to roll your eyes at her exaggeration. You didn't even cause that much trouble. What would make you think that? I hold no importance here. Besides, it's only a 14-minute walk to the next town. I'll be fine. You shot back. The town you were going to was much bigger than your own and therefore had a better range of supply. She only needed to buy some ingredients for dinner tonight. Her friend was coming to visit and she wanted to prepare something nice for them. Perhaps not, but you're friends with those two knights, are you not? You know if you don't return before that they'll worry and bother all their fellow knight friends and they're going to search for you. You hummed at her reply. Izuku and Ida did tend to worry a bit too much. Hararaka would be sure to panic too. You recalled the first time they panicked and sent out a whole search party when you hadn't returned before sunset. You had fallen down a small hill and twisted your ankle, so maybe you should feel lucky to have friends who cared about you so much. Otherwise, you would have been there for God knows how long. I promise I'll be back before dark. You don't have to worry. I make this journey almost every week and nothing bad had happened. You reassured the little old lady who let out a slide of exhaustion. I be holding you to that young lady now. Run along. She shooed her away, and you smiled, sending her a wave. You were thankful she took it upon herself to watch out for you. You lived in a cottage at the edge of the town. You were very secluded and had no family to look out for you. That little old lady was the only person you had, and despite her slightly strict rules and thought love, you appreciated and loved her as if she were your own grandmother. You smiled at the edge of the forest came into view. There was something so great about being able to escape the town for a while and have some peace. Some might find it strange you enjoy the forest so much, especially with all the monster and danger that could be lurking about. Usually, monster only came out at night, so you didn't feel unsafe or anything. Besides, you were pretty good at combat, so you were confident you hold up well in a fight. Still, most people prefer the comfort of their town. It had security, protection. There weren't many things to worry about when you were in town. There was food on your table and night guarding your home to keep you safe. But sometimes, it got a bit suffocating. You liked to go on adventure, to feel free and see new things. Not to say you didn't like your town. It was nice. Everyone was like a big family. Even if you lived alone, you had many others care for you. You could rely on them. You felt pretty lucky to be part of that town. The forest was just a secret pleasure you liked escaping to every now and then. You silently enjoyed your nature walk, keeping to the path as you indulged in the chirping of birds and the rustling of trees. There was a gentle breeze. It was cooling in your skin, which was much appreciated since the sun was shining bright today. It didn't take much longer to get to the town. Despite arriving early morning, you end up staying most of the day, looking around at all the expensive things you could only dream of buying. You greedily hide down all of the delicious baked goods and food the town had to offer. They made your stomach rumble and your mouth drool, but you had only brought enough money to the ingredients you needed, so you were left to silently drool. Eventually, you tore yourself away from window shopping and gathered all the ingredients you needed for the dinner tonight. You took one last stroll around the town, admiring how much bigger it was than your own, how the houses looked a lot more sturdy, how the streets were busy with people rushing around as if they have somewhere important to be. It was a completely different world to your own, and you weren't sure you would ever get used to it, no matter how many times you visit this place. When you noticed the sun was getting closer to the mountain top over the horizon, you figured it was time to go home. You didn't want to anger your granny by being late, especially not after her warnings. As you walked back through the forest, you noticed the air was a lot more chilly than this morning. There were no birds this time, and the cold made you tighten your cloak around you. Nevertheless, you enjoyed the serenity all the same. That was until your peaceful walk was interrupted by a loud cry. Not a human cry, but something else. Your footstep halted as you looked around of the source of the noise. You couldn't see anything. It was silent for a while, but you didn't feel uncomfortable walking away. Whatever it was, it sounded like it was in a lot of pain. A few minutes later, another cry sounded out, and you were able to follow the general direction it was coming from. You followed the sound away from the footpath. Your kind-hearted nature wouldn't allow you to walk away. Or maybe it was just curiosity? Either way, you went on to investigate. You scanned through the trees until you eventually saw a patch of blood on the grass floor. Your lips parted as you gasped. The trail of blood led into a grove of bushes. You bit your lip. It seemed suspicious. Luckily, you had remembered your pocket knife. You hand over to the knife on your belt as you followed the blood. You walked through the greenery, surfing through the bushes, and on the other side, found yourself at the bottom of a cliff. Bushes surrounded the area, keeping it closed off, and a singular tree stood to the right. You gasped again, upon seeing a wolf under the tree. Its ash-blonde fur was matted with spots of blood. It was lying on its side, panting. Its eyes were shut, so it mustn't have noticed you yet. It looked weak, clearly badly injured. You could tell the damage was coming from its right back leg. You could see the blood was still pouring out of the wound, creating a pool under its body. Had it stepped into a trap? Hunters often said those so they could gather wolf pet. Though, if that was the case, it would be still trapped, right? Maybe it had gotten into a fight, or maybe Hunter had found it wandering around and attacked. You shook your head. Now was not the time to be pondering around possibilities. The poor thing was in a lot of pain. If you didn't stop the bleeding, then it could die. However, wolves are dangerous creatures, especially when they're dying and in a lot of pain. You cautiously took a step forward, but upon making your movement, its radar shot open. They landed on you, and you were met with a very threatening warning groan. Even if you knew there was no way it was in any condition to get up and attack you, its deep growl made your heart jumping through your throat. Your hand began to shake, but you forced yourself to calm down. You stopped walking forward and held up your hand to show you were of no threat. It's okay. I just want to help. Why am I speaking to a wolf like he can understand me? You sighed at your idiocy, but to your surprise, the growling stopped. Those piercing red eyes stared at you, cutting into your soul with a deadly glare. The poor thing looked so weak, and yet it was still trying to be threatening. Obviously, it did not trust you. You noticed its eyes move down to your belt, and upon seeing your knife, it growled again. You unclipped it from your belt and did the stupidest thing you've probably done in your whole life. You threw it away, out of reach. The wolf-hardened gaze was still fixed on you, but it noticeably relaxed. A little bit, seeing you an arm now. You slowly approached it. No more growling or warning from the wolf. You kneeled down beside him. The closer you got, the more you could see just how hard it was. Maybe it was a fight after all. The wound was deep, but it wasn't in a vital area, which was made this a lot easier on you. All you had to do was clean and bandage it up. It looked like a stab wound. Maybe it wasn't her after all. You leaned over and reached into your bag, grabbing the flask of water you carried with you. You realized you didn't have any spare clothes inside. You took off your clothes and gently poured some water from your flask into a corner part of it. You could still feel the wolf's intent gaze on you, watching to see what were you doing. It made you gulp, knowing that if you made any wrong move, it would, without a doubt, attack you. You were close enough for it to take a good chunk out of your arm now. You turned to meet his red eye. This would hurt a little bit. I'm going to clean it. Please don't kill me. You pleaded, not sure if it was lash out at you for causing it more pain by touching its wound. Even if you were just trying to help, it might not understand that. You turned to the wound. It seemed to be the only one it had. It looked really dirty. If you didn't do this, it would get infected. You swallowed your fear and lightly pressed the cloth onto the wound. The wolf rolled at the pain after feeling the pressure on the toy's open wound. You waited until it relaxed a bit and pressed the cloth down again, only applying a gentle pressure as to get rid of all the dirt, trying not to hurt it more. You were surprised. It was being so obedient. It wasn't making any move to attack you. It just lay there, glaring at you and letting out the odd sigh of growl of pain. Maybe it realized that you were another treat after all. Once you were satisfied that the wound was clean and wouldn't be infected, you realized you'd have to use something to bandage it, so it didn't keep losing blood. You looked down at your clothes. Part of it already blooded inside. You began to rip up the fabric. For once, you felt glad that you were poor and unable to afford fancy, non-flimsy materials. It made ripping it up a lot easier on you. You ripped up the non-dirty corner of your cloth and cautiously wrapped the fabric around its leg, making sure it was tight enough to hold the blood in. You sat back on your knee, taking in how the wolf lay here, still unable to stand. You pressed your lip in a thin line. There was no way it would be able to walk back to its part of location in this condition. Your eyes lit up as you remembered the food you had brought from town. You reached back over the bag and pulled out some raw meat you had intended to cook up for the dinner, but, well, this was more important. You unwrapped the meat from the bag, and the wolf nose twitched at the smell of food. It looked over you, its eyes no longer glaring, but rather staring at the food with a longing look. It must be starving. You chuckled at its expression and placed the meat down to its head. Here you go, you can have it. You smiled and watched as the wolf greedily ate up your offering of food. As it ate the raw meat, you reached back up the flask of water. You had no bowl to put it into for the wolves to drink, so you decided you'd have to help hydrate it yourself. This would help give it the strength it needed to get back home. After it finished devouring the meat, you had held up the flask. It's water. You lost a lot of blood, so you need to drink it all up. You told it. The wolf huffed, but in its weak state, it could only comply. You slowly poured the water down, and it slapped up whatever it could. Once it in tied, you placed everything back into your bag, even your rainer coat, which you could have to throw away now. You got comfy. You didn't want to leave it here alone in case something came out and took advantage of its weakened state. You had to admit, you were a bit prideful of yourself. Seeing that the walls were already looking much better than it was when you found it made you feel really good. You were actually able to help save its life and make your heart swell with joy. Now that the worry of the wolf bleeding out and dying had gone, the situation had become a lot clearer to you. You were actually sitting in front of a wolf, feeding it, taking care of it. They were one of the most aggressive creatures around this forest. Well, at least to humans. Not that you could blame them. Hunters often try killing and capturing them, so of course they didn't want to attack humans. They probably had no trust in your kind. Oh boy, if your town could see you now, they called you crazy for approaching a wolf. In fact, if they saw the wolf here, there'd be no doubt they'd capture it and killed it. You didn't agree with that mindset. Maybe it made you weak, but you'd rather be weak than be a monster. You found wolves to be wonderful creatures. From what you knew, they were very intelligent and loyal animals. You didn't want to harm them. In fact, you always liked the idea of having a pet wolf. You were lost in thought for so long, you barely even realized that when the wolf began slowly pushing itself up, wobbling in the process since it could only use 3 of its legs. When you noticed it limping away toward the birches, it had no doubt came from you shot up from the ground. Wait, you're still hurt. You should... How grown could you have? The wolf had glaring at you as if you had just threatened it. You tensed up for a second. You thought it might attack you, but when it turned around and limped away, you sighed in relief. Get home safe. You smiled. You knew it hurt you as its heart twitched at your word, but it didn't stop to look back at you and eventually it disappeared into the tree. You looked back at the puddle of blood it had left behind and exhaled through your nose. Being near a wolf was more than 5 seconds and not dying. You were probably the first and only human to achieve that.